Hi, welcome to my channel. I had a vision that I wanted to share, and I can say that it's a vision of a man carrying a cloak. And though I am in North America, and snow and ice and freezing temperatures are prevalent at this time, in my vision there was no sign of atmosphere. So additionally, this individual was not wearing the cloak, just carrying this cloak. It was green, so if it resonates, perhaps this would apply to somebody with green eyes, but more so I see that green being symbolic of the heart chakra, because this cloak is almost regal, like luxurious, royal, and yet it's not being worn. It's a symbol. It is heavy. It is a burden. And I get the idea that this masculine is sensing the burden that the weight of this cloak poses on the heart chakra, on the heart energy. So what does the cloak represent? It is a symbol of antecedents, their values, the honor associated with reputation, family values, hard work. And this masculine, and I say genderless, but we all have masculine and feminine sides to us. So though in my vision this individual was a man, the archetype is of somebody of stature who feels a responsibility to carry the weight of their antecedents. This is having the expectations put upon you from the past. So I want to bring up several things to do with this vision because, for example, Prince Harry. And, okay, Harry's a prince. You look at the role of a king or a prince, and traditionally, a king had valor. He was valiant, and really they took pride in their ability to be a strong warrior, to provide for the kingdom, and to carry the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. And now we see rulers who often don't take pride in the skill of being able to fight. Not that we should really embrace fighting or war, but nonetheless, I mean, even without bloodshed, there are still negotiation tactics and strategy that are employed by a king. So Prince Harry, I find it commendable that he served and was deployed twice. He served with his brothers, and to me, I see that making a good ruler because he stood with his brothers, is what I'm trying to say. I think there's a lot of value in that, to not see himself as being above them. And likewise, traditionally, when we look at kings, a king may have had a council that he kept close, a council that in many ways protected him. And there was usually an individual that provided spiritual counsel, and there was an individual that provided counsel to war and perhaps to commerce and so forth. But he still fought amongst the people and took pride in his skill. And so I see that with Prince Harry. That's why I'm using him as an example. At some point, though, Harry stepped back from the rules of working members of the royal family, but that does not make him any less royal. He still comes from that bloodline. He is still of royal descent. He just stepped away from the working roles. So this particular individual in my vision is considering stepping back from the working roles of whatever that cloak represents to him. And it's a challenge. I think about 1.5 years ago, I did a video about the blanket. Feeling like you're underneath this blanket and it's just so big and so heavy and dark that you're just sort of trapped trying to find a tunnel to air. You can imagine when your pet is like under the covers when you're trying to make the bed, right? Maybe you leave a little lofty roll in the comforter blanket, like a tube, a channel, so that they have an air passage. And that's like what you're looking for, but it just feels like being trapped and you're underneath this blanket fighting for your way out. And that blanket is of course a representation of family values, expectations, responsibilities, and so forth. And why would you try to get out? Because you're faced with your own values, your own freedom, your wants, your wishes, your desires, and the expectations that you have of yourself. It's key. And the blanket, I said, was very much like a fish net, because you feel like a fish trapped in a net, that it's like inescapable. It can feel that way when you're in this position where you're fighting yourself over what you want for your life. And that's a challenging place to be. And that is where the man in my vision is currently struggling. It's a personal battle of the head and the heart in some ways. And it's funny because this person feels like to choose for themselves would be considered or seen as being irresponsible. But the irony is this individual never made an irresponsible choice in their life, pretty much because of the way that they were raised and the values surrounding their family. So we could see this very commonly in wealthy American families. And I don't know, times change, so you see that may have existed, but there are also a lot of families that have the wealthy American families where the children have like really screwed up, and the trials of those individuals are sort of swept under the rug because of the wealth and the reputation. But let us not look just upon wealthy American families. Let's take, for example, like a Native American family where the individual is surrounded by such strong cultural beliefs that to step away from those cultural beliefs, or like Amish family, same Amish culture, same kind of thing. You're surrounded by these beliefs and values and ways of life that to step outside of those boundaries is threatening in some way to the people around you that formed those values, that hold those values, that hold you accountable to living up to their expectations and their standards according to those values. So it is a very challenging place to find oneself. And it forces one to consider their own happiness and personal expectation, what they want for their life, because you can choose your own story and live authentically, and feel like you've let down the immediate community that surrounds you, which is generally your parents, your siblings, grandparents, possibly cousins, etc. The people that formed you. Or you, and this is the key thing too, or you can live authentically according to your own expectations and your own values and your own choice for what makes you happy. But what the person in this position doesn't realize is that there is more honor. There's more honor in choosing your own path than there is in sticking with the family values. There's more honor in living up to your own expectations than there is in carrying around this weight of a heavy cloak that masks who you truly are. But the individual going through this fight does not see that truth, that there will be more honor in choosing for themselves. So I don't know if this message is for you or if you're witnessing somebody going through this struggle, but a song that came to mind that I will post on my Music for the Moment playlist is, what is it called? Once in a Lifetime, right? You have a once in a lifetime choice. And also, I wanted to, it's a good song from like the 80s, but it's got good lyrics. Time isn't holding up. Time isn't after us. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Letting the days go by. Let the water hold me down. I always talk about water as being emotion. This person is really struggling with pursuing that which makes their heart happy. You may ask yourself, where does that highway go to? You may ask yourself, am I right? Am I wrong? And you may say to yourself, my God, what have I done? And all I can say is, if you find yourself with these struggles and in this position, remember that the advice, don't let the fear of failure stop you from trying something or giving something a shot. Nothing's ever perfect. And no matter which way you choose, whatever path you choose, there's always going to be struggle. There are always going to be challenges. And whoever this kind of person is that was raised with responsibility and makes responsible decisions has always thought things out, thought about planning this way or that way. It's not like an ill-considered choice or an ill-considered decision. Only your heart knows. But I see this individual really contemplating removing the weight of this heavy cloak that they carry around with them, because it's really just a burden. When you have an opportunity to set it aside and set yourself free to pursue a life to which you can feel held accountable, a life that reveals your own authenticity, the truth of who you are and what makes you happy, what motivates you, what makes you tick. A life that will live up to your own personal expectations. Thank you for coming to my channel, Compass Starlight.